Sorry, I had initiated another live and then I realized that it was, I think, unlisted partially. So, anyways, I listed this one. So, hopefully, people that subscribe to the channel can find it and we can get started. So, we'll just kind of give everybody a minute to jump on. As per usual with all my lives, this is unannounced, last minute. Just decided I wanted to talk a little bit about something and then see if anybody has anything for me that is interesting to talk about, and then we'll kind of go from there. So, hello, hello. So I already see some people jumping on here. You're going to talk today about intention in dog training, how powerful it is, and more. Chandra, you're in here. Hope everything's going well out there in Saskatoon. Texas in the house. Tyler says, I just started reading your book. I feel like a pro now. Awesome, man. We got New Zealand, Mexico, Australia. As always, a wide variety of places all around the world. Super cool. Okay, guys. So we are going to talk a little bit about something that I've noticed in dogs and dog training. Dogs. So I'll bring this back to something. When I first became interested in dog behavior many, many years ago, at the time there wasn't too many resources out there, especially when it came to like behavior training. You could find like guides on like how to do marker training, clicker training, all that type of stuff, but there wasn't really like a lot on like behavior, like how do you fix behavioral issues. And the only person that I really found that had a book out was, of course, the most famous dog trainer in the world, the Dog Whisperer. So I had bought his book, and it was like this kind of like, I can't remember even what the name of the book was, to be honest. Like he did a few books, needless to say. He was real famous on Nat Geo at the time. And basically the whole book was like, there wasn't really like a step-by-step process, which I was quite disappointed by in there about like how to fix behavioral issues, the usual kind of exercise, discipline, affection, blah, blah, blah. But like he talked a lot about energy. He talked a lot about energy. And at the time I was like, what the hell is this mumbo jumbo about energy? You know what I mean? I was like, this is horse shit. Like I'm here for step-by-step processes. And I'm reading about energy. What next? You're gonna tell me about my I'm a Pisces, and you're gonna talk about crystals and shit, right? So it just didn't, it really kind of like rubbed me the wrong way, and I just kind of put the book down after that and like went on looking for information elsewhere. But I gotta tell you, at this point, he was right. Energy is 100% a thing. Energy is 100% a thing, and dogs 100% read it. But, sometimes you have to get to a certain level before information that you're absorbing makes sense, right? And I've found that multiple times in a lot of different things where you would read something or you would read a how-to or you would hear someone say something. It wouldn't make any sense to you. But then once you reach the level of competence and understanding in that specific thing, the thing they said all of a sudden was super profound, made sense, so on and so forth. And I find that dog training is no different. So, I remember he talked a lot about energy and the dogs reading his energy and him directing his energy into the dog. And I've always said this about the Dog Whisperer: love him or hate him. And I've always respected him as being a trailblazer in the dog training space, and that he became probably to this day the world's most well-known dog trainer. And he has an undeniable talent with the dogs. I mean, as much as people like to try and make fun of him, that's usually just based in jealousy. The reality is the man does have a lot of natural inborn talent when it comes to handling the dogs, especially the behavior cases. And someone who's handled quite a few behavior cases, I recognize that a lot of the behavior cases that he would handle in the show were quite significant behavior cases. Weren't and these were dogs he was doing on TV. Anyways, long story short, I'll tell you guys a little bit about energy, and I've noticed it kind of off and on. So there have been instances, right, where a lot of the time, I'll speak about reactive dog first, right? So as you do something I want you to think about anything that you do really well, okay? Anything you do really well. As you do something more and more and more, you start developing a strong expectation for the outcome, right? So, like for instance, in the beginning, right? When you're doing something that you're unfamiliar with, you know what outcome you want, but maybe you don't, especially if it's like a skills based thing, you don't maybe expect the outcome. You're kind of hoping for the outcome, but you don't expect the outcome, right? And so your level of intention towards that outcome is more kind of like, yes, I would like that outcome, but I'm not 100% sure that I can obtain that outcome. You understand what I mean? Right? So like let's take a sport for instance, okay? Like you played soccer for the first time and you kick the ball as hard as you can towards the net, right? In the beginning, you don't necessarily expect that ball to go where you want it to go. You don't expect the ball to go as fast as you want it to go. You don't expect the ball even necessarily to go in the net. You're just happy if it heads in that direction. You would like to score a goal. You want to score a goal, but you don't have that level of sureness, of expectation, of intention, right? That you will have if you are, let's say, I don't know, Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, Leo Messi, right? Like these guys. Those guys have complete assurance that when that ball leaves their foot, it is going exactly where they aimed, how fast they aimed, even to the level where the ball curves into the net. All of these things, they have complete assurance and mastery and expectation, and they focus all of that into their specific sport. And of course, I'm talking about people that are world famous at a specific thing, right? Which is, in this case, we're talking about football or soccer, right? Now, you can apply that to anything. So as I became more and more obviously experienced and acquired outcomes over and over and over again, I began to expect outcomes with the dogs, right? So for instance, in the beginning, you get a reactive dog and you'd say, okay, well, I'm going to try this, this, and this. I hope the reactivity goes away, and some things would work, some things wouldn't work. But of course, as you became much more experienced, and you begin to understand exactly how dogs learn, think, and communicate, and how to get them to stop being reactive, it would come to the point where I would take the leash and I'd be like, all right, you're done being reactive. You're done. Like, it's just not possible for you to be reactive anymore. We're putting an end to it. It's finished. It's over. It's not allowed, right? The dogs would read that, and almost instantly, I would do the exact same thing the owner had done before me, right? Like, let's say I checked the dog on the lead, right? No, check the dog on the lead when he was reactive. The owner would do it 1,000 times, nothing. I would do it, and the dog would be like, oh, okay, I'm done, right? It wasn't because my physical correction was so much more. It was because my true belief and expectation and intention was that the behavior would no longer exist. And it's more than just, like I put energy into it. It's that I truly believed it. And I knew that I would do, here's the thing, I would do absolutely anything to make that behavior go away. There's nothing I wouldn't do to make the behavior go away. You understand what I'm saying? Right? Oh no, Haz, that's terrible. No, it's not terrible. The dogs read that. They're like, oh, he means it. He means it. Like, I need to stop now. Like, this is the time to stop because he's not screwing around. He means it, right? The dogs 100% read that. They read it and they react to that instantly, right? The vast majority of them. Some of them will fight you on it a little bit. Some of them will pit their intention against your intention, right? And that's where you have to really believe it. And a lot of people really don't. A lot of people don't. They hope, they pray, but they don't believe. And what creates belief? Let's think about that. What creates belief? Previous success, right? Previous success. Like, needless to say, I've done this a lot. So I have, a lot of experience and a lot of success, such that in my mind, it's not possible for any dog on this planet to be reactive if I decide they're not going to be reactive anymore. It's just not possible, right? So dogs read that intention. There's a lot of people, of course, they've never dealt with a reactive dog. So when their dog starts being reactive, it's very scary, it's very unfamiliar, and they have hope, but maybe not the right intention. So it makes whatever they're doing way less effective. Now, let's talk about it from a scientific standpoint, because let's say, okay, well, has, you're talking about energy, you're talking about feeling, you're talking about intention, but like scientifically, what does that even mean? I don't know. We could talk about the senses of a dog. Maybe you smell a certain way when you have true intention. Maybe your body language, and this is what I'm guessing, the way that you smell, your body language, very, very important. Probably the body language being the most important, is subtly different than when you are lacking intention, right? So I know, for instance, that there's times when my intention is weaker than at other times. And sometimes it just has, and I remember again reading the Dog Whisperers book, like, I don't know, 20 years ago, right? And he spoke about a time when he was going through like a lot of personal issues and he had attempted suicide. And I think his wife divorced him or something like that, anyways, right? And he spoke about how the dogs stopped responding to him. His pack of dogs would get into more fights. There was more behavioral issues. They weren't responding to him. He was doing all the same things, but they weren't responding to him because his intention had weakened. His belief had weakened. And I'm here to tell you, I have experienced that as well. I'm feeling off. I'm feeling sick. I'm feeling tired. I don't really want to do it, right? The dogs respond differently. They can sense it. They can feel it. So that's not to say that, hey, like if you're not feeling good, like don't do anything. That's to say just be hyper aware that whether it's through nonverbal communication, the way you smell, the way you sound, a combination of all those things, dogs are able to read your level of commitment towards an outcome. Now let's take this to the world of competition dog sport, optimized performance, which is where my current interest is really focused. I'm thinking now about when I enter a trial and I'm competing with my dog, right? We have no tools on the dog. I have no ability beyond like very limited things that I can do to reinforce the correct behavior in the dog, right? He's pretty much like, it's pretty much just, it's up to him on that day. I think back to the times when things have gone wrong, right? When things go wrong, it's kind of like one thing goes wrong, and then you're like, oh no, like it's bad. Then another thing goes wrong, and you're like, oh god damn. And then it's like this snowball. And as things continue to go wrong, worse and worse and worse, you start like you feel progressively more and more terrible and more upset and more like uncentered. And I'm thinking that the dog for sure picks up on that. And also their performance continues to spiral because they pick up on the lack of intention you have. So I've decided moving forward to be very, very intention based when I trial and compete with my dog. Not that I'm not already, because thankfully I've had a lot of success in competition, so I know what success feels like, and I have a reasonable level of confidence in my dog and my training and my preparation, so on and so forth. But even when things go wrong, and they will, the important thing is to always remain intent based. Yeah, that didn't happen. Or sorry, that happened, but whatever. Moving forward, this is exactly my intention. You will do this. And if the dog reads that complete confidence, that complete assurance from you, hopefully that translates onto the performance field. We're going to see, because when I think about when things went well, so the best performance I've ever had in my life, and sorry guys, I'm not reading the comments so I can focus. The best performance I've ever had in my life was at the 2024 FCI World Championship in protection with Gage. And when I think back to my mindset, right? I was a little nervous, obviously, because it was my first time stepping into the stadium at the world level. But I don't know, I felt really confident. And I swaggered onto that field, and I felt like I owned the field. And I really didn't give a shit. Like I swaggered onto that field. I took that center line. I signaled the judge, turned around, and just ran the whole protection routine like I've been doing it my whole life. And I said, man, like this dog gave me 110%. He's like, this is the best performance of his life. I don't know if he'll ever be able to have another performance at that level. But now, and I'm thinking, man, like, maybe he was just like, obviously he was feeling good and the preparation was really good for that competition. But I think also my intention impacted his performance. I think it's undeniable that my intention impacted his performance. He read that. He felt that confidence. He felt that energy from me. So I think whether you're fixing a behavioral problem like reactivity, right, or you're competing with your dog, at the world championship, intention is so, so important. I'm going to try to be mindful of that moving forward. It's easier said than done. Oh, intention. Oh, feel good about it. Have like a calm, assured energy, like a confident energy, a cocky energy, if anything, right? Complete self-assurance. And I know some of you guys get this through like my videos, right? Where a lot of people actually don't like my vibe on the videos because sometimes they'll be like, oh, you're cocky, you're arrogant, whatever. Well, all that is it's intention. It's assurance. It's assurance and true belief in an outcome. And that's what's really, I think, helped me in my training and made what I do so effective. Obviously, the methodology, the techniques, all that stuff is very important. But aside from that, intention in everything that you do, right? Especially when you're training a dog and working with a dog, right? And I think in competition, sometimes I've forgotten that. And I haven't been as mindful of that. So moving forward, I'm going to try to bring a ton of intention to my competition performances. So expect, more swagger. I'm going to swagger. I don't care. I don't care how it's going. I'm going to really go out there and try to have a good time and really go out there with that kind of calm, assured energy that I think will be more conducive to my dog's optimal performance. But hey, we'll find out. Anyways, I'm going to read your comments now, guys. Sorry, I've been ignoring them because I've been focusing on what I'm saying here. Hi, Hans. My name is Haz, not Hans. I'm in Australia and I subscribe to your Patreon. I love your content, but struggle to see how you start with the e-collar when the dog is aggressive and redirects. I don't start with the e-collar to fix aggression. If you go to courses, that's where I go over that. I don't talk really about, pet dog training in my Patreon. Like I'll show pet sessions, but I don't really talk about like, the process by which I train a dog from zero all the way with an e-collar, because I go over that in my online courses, and my Patreon isn't, a ripoff of my online courses. It's something different. It adds more meat to the bone, so to speak. So if you have my book, you have my online courses, the Patreon's just more behind the scenes stuff, maybe more sessions, and those sessions and that kind of thing will make sense to you if you already have that, kind of foundation, if that makes sense. Hobby Trainer says, I just found your book, waiting for it to come. Jesse says, I notice you pull the lead forward when you ask your dog to heel. Why? Well, again, this question is answered in my online courses, but suffice to say, have you ever heard of opposition reflex, right? Opposition reflex. If you make pressure, right, there will be, the dog generally offers opposing pressure. So if I pull forward, he's going to pull backwards. You see how I can use that to manipulate the dog into the positions that I want in healing. Luke Dude says, do you show how to out a dog that won't out in your online courses? Yes, I literally have a course called the Out Course. Joyful Canine Services says, did you see the Justin Rigney reel a couple days ago with the Victoria Stillwell stitch? Intention is a fantastic topic. Let's go. I didn't actually. I'll try and catch that later. I'm from Brazil. Do you have courses with translation in Portuguese or Spanish? No, unfortunately, I don't. I don't have any. All my courses are in English. What else do we got here? We got. You know what? You are a cunt. A radical behaviorist. You are a cunt. I don't like your attitude. You're one of these do-nothings that talks like you've done something. I am going to block you because you don't deserve to consume my content. Boom. And you don't exist anymore. Sorry for my language, folks, but sometimes certain people bring it out of me. I hate arrogance that is undeserved. Luke says, you have this BS artist Heinz. Oh, well, there you go. I addressed him. Yes, people like that often. They glom on to people that have actually done something and then attempt to, elevate themselves by criticizing those that have actually done something, accomplished something, have some sort of following. And those are the worst scum of the earth, because instead of doing the work and saying, well, listen, like I would like to be where that person is, instead of saying, okay, well, let me look at what I'm doing. Obviously, what I'm doing isn't working. I need to, elevate my skills. I need to elevate my abilities. And once I accomplish some level of excellence in whatever it is that I'm targeting, whatever, sphere that I'm targeting, I'm surely I will have a following. Surely people will be interested in what I have to say. Instead, what they do is they glom onto those that, have got some level of accomplishment and success, and then they attempt to criticize them in order to elevate themselves. Just useless. All right, let's see here. Affectionate boat late. If border collies are so smart, why don't people use them in IGP? Because they're not brave. They don't have the heart for IGP, right? So smart and brave are two very different things, right? In IGP, you need more than smart. It's not really a smarts thing, right? You can actually have quite a stupid dog in IGP as long as he does all the things that he's supposed to do. Imagine, right? There's a level of intelligence, especially with dogs, right? There's a level of intelligence. When the dog has a level of intelligence, he's able to assess risk. Hey, that guy running towards me screaming and waving a stick, man, that's risky. I could get injured. I could get killed. Why would I engage that guy? I'm going to run around that guy, right? Like that's smart, especially in the animal kingdom, right? So there's something that comes along with smart. Like yes, I'll tell you guys this. So like with Malinois, with border collie, and they're kind of the Belgian Malinois is like a border collie with a little more heart and a little more aggression, right? That's fundamentally what the Belgian Malinois is. Obviously, there's a spectrum of those things, right? But what you see is the more sensitive and smart a dog is, and by sensitive, I mean the dog is very sensitive to pressure from the handler, right? So the handler can be like, hey, don't do that. And the dog's like, whoa, okay, like I won't do that, right? Whereas a dog that, let's say, is not sensitive, you can be like, hey, don't do that. And right, like do all of that. And maybe even smack him upside the head. And he'll be like, yeah, I think I'm still going to do that, right? Like, because he's going to satisfy himself. He's not so worried about what you're going to do to him, right? You have to lay in a lot of pressure. And even if you lay in a lot of pressure, it's not enough that it's going to change him for a long period of time. It might change him right then and there, but he's still going to go and do what he wants, like the next time he has an opportunity in his mind to do it. Whereas there's some dogs, you correct them one time, they remember it for their whole life. Me and my buddy were actually like, we have a training group now. And there were some people that they brought their Malinois in for IGP training, and he's a German Shepherd guy. And like he started working with them, and fantastic trainer. But like a couple times I was like, hey bro, these are Malinois. Like chill out. Like these are Malinois. Like you can't do like German Shepherd, you can do that all day. Malinois will remember this his whole life, right? It's gonna change everything. So it's like the level of pressure, it's not the pressure, it's not that you don't apply the pressure, it's that the way they perceive and retain the pressure is significantly different, right? And the problem is the smarter the dogs get, the more sensitive they get, the more willing they are to work with you. Usually the courage goes down and the heart goes down. My 7-month-old Ovcharka is keeping me on my toes at the moment. I am learning so much from this breed over the Doberman Dutch Shepherd I've had in the past. Yeah, well, they're very different dogs. Let's see here. Nerio says, hey man, I watch your videos. I like your video. I'm going to like and subscribe. Well, thank you, sir. You guys are still arguing. I'm glad I got rid of that guy. Seems like he was a problem. What else we got here? Just reading the comments, guys. There's a lot of chatter in this chat room. What's your take on Dutch Shepherd Belgium Malinois mix for home protection? Yeah, I mean, look, man, it doesn't mean anything. It's kind of like saying, like, what's your take on, white people and black people having children together? That can be those can be a wide variety, just like any two humans having kids together. You're mentioning two like breeds. There's millions of individuals in each breed, I'm sure. It's like the outcome can be a professional athlete, the outcome can be a professor, the outcome could be a criminal. You understand what I'm saying? It's the same with the dogs, man. Like you got to be a lot more specific than that. It's not really about the breed. It's about it is about the breed to some level. I mean, if you told me a husky and a Dutch shepherd are having a puppy, what do you think about that? I'd say kill it now. No, I'm kidding. But I would say, yeah, if you want a dog that's, purpose bred for protection, it's really more about the individuals that we're talking about, right? Let's see here. Zen says, love your inspiration to keep going and giving it all you have by being more mindful. Well, listen, success in life is not determined by, just winning. It's determined by what happens. Like, you're going to fail a lot more than you're going to succeed. It's just the way of things. It's how you perceive the failure. I find some people are completely broken by any kind of failure or setback. But as you become more experienced in life and as you accomplish more, what you become very comfortable with, not happy, but comfortable in the sense of, okay, so I want to be clear here. You're not comfortable losing in that you're okay with losing. It's like you're more comfortable with it because it's happened before and you know how to improve from it, if that makes sense, right? Failures is an opportunity for development. That's what failure is, right? Whether it's a major failure or a small failure. That's all it is. It's like, hey, that thing you did just didn't work, but you have done things that worked in the past. Let's let's recalibrate, let's go back, let's see again, right? And that's the fantastic thing about dog sport is it's constantly asking you to recalibrate. Oh, that thing that you did that worked like 3 times before, this time it's not going to work for this dog in this situation. That thing even for your dog. This is the great thing about the dogs is as they grow and as you've trained them more and more and more and developed them more and more and more, what you did in the last 3 competitions to develop that specific dog, this next competition, it's not going to work, right? You do the exact same thing, and then all of a sudden, man, it doesn't work anymore. I have to change my approach, right? It's a fantastic little puzzle, right? Alex says, I spike my cortisol with caffeine and nicotine after I study, but I like to wait for it to calm down before going out with the dogs. Yeah, for sure, man. Preet says, in response to your Patreon video, I personally really enjoy the IG videos, but I also really enjoy listening to you just talk about tough cases you've had in the past in detail. Okay, Creed. Cool, man. We can talk about that. I can think of a case that's actually very instructive. It was a pit bull that was very muzzle wise, and he knew when the muzzle came off and he knew when it was on, and he would try to eat you over pressure. So if you tried to make pressure on him to do certain things, like he would accept it in the muzzle, but the second the muzzle came off, he would immediately come for you over it. So we can talk about that. That's a good one for the Patreon. I'll talk about it. My male Malwa had a season after being shipped where he was wound up and mouthy, but it eased with time and confidence and training. Good. I just got here, but I wanted to say I respect your no-nonsense attitude when it comes to your profession. I respect you not letting people's sensitivity dictate your professionalism. It's all about intention. Sensitivity, right? In the wrong way. In the wrong way. Sensitivity that's based in weakness and a utopian ideology gets in the way of intention, right? It blocks intention because it can't, unless you're very, very realistic about what you're doing and what the outcome should be. If you're muddying the waters with like that level of weakness, that level of being unrealistic, the dogs read it, and the outcome, unfortunately, is suboptimal. So that's why, even when I communicate with humans, I seek to remove all of that nonsense. Just like direct communication. This is what I'm thinking, this is the outcome that I'm seeking, and some people like it and respond to it, and some people absolutely hate it, and that's fine. I took too much. Okay, let me see here. What do you think about the Buceron? Man, I swear everybody asks me about the Buceron. I don't know why. They're very like rare breed. No, they're not very good for protection. They're an off breed for a reason. Yeah, I would recommend if you're serious about a protection dog, just get a German Shepherd from well-bred lines. Luke Do says, would you be able to say how you outed the dog that wouldn't out the one you blurred? No, because I blurred it for a reason. So no, I won't say it on YouTube because not only because it's like super like not only because it's like ooh it's like a secret and I can't tell anybody about my no it's not even a secret method, right? That thing that I did for that dog worked for that dog. It wouldn't necessarily work for another dog. It wouldn't even be necessary for another dog, right? Every dog has a different thing maybe that you might do, but the reason I also won't say it on YouTube is because if I say it, people will start doing it and then they'll screw up their dog unnecessarily, right? Joyful says, I'm so glad you blocked. I'm not even going to say his name. His name is immaterial. He may have been, he may have even done reaction videos of you on YouTube. I'm sure 40 people watched it. Question, hey, what flea treatment do you use for your brood bitches, especially during breeding? I use Advantix Multi. When's the next time you are going to come to Central Florida area? I plan to come to South Florida again in the winter. I haven't got dates nailed in yet, but I will. I will be down in the winter, and I'll probably do a seminar when I'm down there, a workshop. Do I ever come to Australia? Not recreationally, no. That's very far. That's like 18-hour flight. Hi, thank you so much for your content. I unexpectedly lost my IGP partner a few months ago, and it's been tough. But your content has kept me up and hopeful for my future in the sport. Thank you. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Ashley. Luke says, I'm in no position to judge, but seeing your competition videos, it's not always the same Hass on the field. Hopefully you bring the swagger with you in the future. Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, it's interesting. So, like, I was raised always to be humble, right? Like, hey, you shouldn't, like, put yourself out there. You shouldn't be, you shouldn't, you should always kind of, like, be a humble person. Don't be, I don't know what the word is. Don't be arrogant, right? But I believe that there's a line, right? There's a line where it's like there's a line between arrogance, which I believe is undeserved confidence, and true belief and intention in what you're doing, right? And I think those two things can often be confused. If you have some and we've all met arrogant people, they don't deserve, to feel, they don't deserve the level of, what's the word? I don't want to say they don't deserve to be confident because everyone deserves to be confident. No, actually, no. Everybody does not deserve to be confident, right? They haven't put in the work. They haven't put in the preparation, but they are acting with a confidence that they don't deserve to have. But when you have put in the work, the preparation, right, and when you have, put that necessary time in, you should be confident and you should believe in the outcome. Otherwise, why are you there, right? And I think sometimes that comes. And the other thing too is, let's say everybody in this world loves to tear people down, right? So it's like when you carry yourself with confidence, right? Like utmost confidence, people want you to fail. People want you for whatever reason. It's a human condition, right? There's guys that have made a living off of that, especially like you can think of some fighters, right? Who are known for their brash talk. They talk so much, they talk so much, they have just extreme levels of confidence that they have no problem projecting before they go into the ring. But people all want them to like lose. You know what I mean? People like, oh man, like that guy is way too high on himself. Like I want someone to knock him out, right? But also understand that the fighter that does that, or the person that does that talks with that level of confidence and self-belief, they also take on more risk than the person that goes out there and goes like, well, like, I don't know, like, man, like, it might go good, it might not. And if it doesn't, well, people are like, well, he didn't really talk too much, so it didn't go well, but whatever, right? Whereas the guy that goes out there and is like, I'm going to smoke this, I'm going to murder this, I'm going to win, right? That guy, when he goes out and he, let's say, doesn't accomplish that, now it's like, oh, yeah, you see that guy, he talks so much nonsense, he doesn't deserve to, and so there's a line there. There's a line there between confidence and self-belief, and then arrogance. And we all kind of have to work there. We have to find that happy place, and I seek to find that happy place because I truly believe that your dog will read your and your intention, and I don't intend to sacrifice that in the future, right? Armin Hammer says has very loyal followers. They answer the questions I ask. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Ty says, "Hey Has." Well, hello Ty. Um, Kay says, "Hey Has, are there still available female puppies from the Ike Taz litter? If so, what are their temperaments like?" I mean, they're little puppies. People ask me like, "What are their temperaments like?" There's one puppy left in that litter. Um, what is her? I mean, she's a cute little puppy, man. Like, there's nothing abnormal in her temperament. I'll say that. You either believe in the breeding or you don't. It's like people want to pick off of the temperament. I'm not saying that's what you want to do, but people want to pick off of the temperament. I've said it 1,000 times. You cannot pick off of the temperament. You're picking off of the breeding. You looked at Ike's pedigree. You looked at Taz's pedigree, and you said, "This is a breeding that I believe in, and I'm willing to take a risk on a puppy." Now, it'd be one thing if you're like, "Look, Has, like, I don't want anything that's showing like excessive fear or like I really need a ton of food drive and I want to see the food drive right away. And if the puppy doesn't have that, I'm not interested." All right, fair enough, right? But I'm looking to take a puppy from that litter personally, and I believe in the breeding, right? I believe in the breeding. So, I'm I'm just taking a male from it, and we'll raise him. We'll see how he turns out. Let's see here. My Doberman did not stick grip during escape bite on trial. We had some minor issues after we started pushing for more power during OB, but had worked through it until trial day. Any ideas? Yeah, well, trial day is more stress, right? So if your Doberman lost the grip in the escape, which is, by the way, a very easy bite for the dog to retain the grip on, I would look at all of the protection and say, okay, what am I doing? Have I seen other decoys? Have I shown this dog the appropriate level of protection such that he would be resilient in a trial situation? Yeah, I have literally a whole course called the Out Course. What's the worst interaction you've ever had about someone having a problem with your dogs being off leash if you've had them? I mean, I've had a few people like, "Oh, your dog should be on a leash." And I always just look at them and just, I give them the look. And, they'll say maybe like some more things. And I just keep looking at them. And my dog holds like a position next to me. And they usually walk away, you know? I treat these people with the level of respect that they deserve. It's like, go away, silly. But are you going to do another podcast with, so someone says kind of off topic, but are you going to do another podcast with Larry Crone? The podcast you did a year ago was informative, and yours and his take on docs, and how to properly handle them. We actually have two podcasts, right? I did one on his platform, and he did one on my platform. In the future, maybe we'll do another one. Who knows? This is from IFV, no nonsense dog training as well as the videos changed my life. I was clueless and bad dog owner. Last This puppy is shield reliable companion. I'm happy to hear it. Glad it's working for you, man. Alex says, I do some breathing techniques to quickly calm down anxiety if I need to attend to the dogs. I notice the dogs also have these tricks on their toolbox, and it's actually the same trick. Well, there you go. Thomas Howland says, love your competition videos because I love that you guys push and support each other, and your group chemistry is positive in the working dog world. Well, yeah, our group is like we have a very good camaraderie, and we're very careful in the level of camaraderie that we have. So like anybody that comes into our group, if we feel like they're upsetting that, gotta go, right? So our group is small, but we have a fantastic camaraderie, and we all want to see each other win. Let's see here. Do you have any tips for a dog who is generally anxious, even with fair boundaries and break times? She won't go sniff on breaks and always carries her tail lowered and slightly pressed against her. Yes, I mean, you're saying your name is Luna the Dane, so I think you're talking about Great Danes. This is a common problem that you see in Great Danes, where they're insecure, they're nervous, and they choose to stay by you at all times because they perceive you as the safety, and it's a little bit scary to go out and explore in the world. The way that you can open these dogs up is with structured play. That's a big one. And, I give the dogs I give the dogs rules. I run the functional obedience training system on the dogs, but I also give them the ability to break the rules if that makes sense. So, for instance, with some dogs like this that are like really nervous and anxious, I'll actually let them pull me on the leash a little bit. If they're pulling me to investigate things, if they're pulling me to escape, I won't allow them to pull me on the leash, if that makes sense, right? I will allow them only to pull me if they're like, ooh, like what's that over there? They're walking and they're maybe making a little pressure into the collar. I'll allow that. But like if he's pulling me to like run or to flight, then I won't allow it, right? I allow the behavior and reinforce the behavior that I want, which is confidence, which is curiosity, which is the willingness to engage and to enjoy the world to some level. And anything like flight avoidance, these types of things, these are the behaviors that I negatively reinforce the dog into something else because I don't allow the dog to practice those behaviors. Tyler says, I have a 9 week old Dutchy German Shepherd. How big do you think he will be? No clue, man. Sorry. Danny says, are labs really resilient to E pressure? I've only been doing low stim conditioning for a couple of weeks, and the other day he ran on the beach, and I had to give him max to turn him around. Yeah, they tend to be pretty tough dogs. Um, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Possible bad contact. Well, I mean, listen, all your training needs to be progressive. So even if you're doing low stim conditioning, don't stay low for too long. All you're going to do is desensitize the dog to the stimulation, right? Completely. So everything has to have an end goal. We don't just tickle the dog forever on the e-collar because that's not the end goal. Well, not for me, anyways. Um, Swearwolf says, my 1 year old Ike ex Hurricane female German Shepherd is doing great. I'm excited to hear more about the dog you take on that litter. Oh, you have one of those puppies. Excellent. Yeah, those were that was a cool pup. That was a cool litter. Isaiah says, arrogance is undeserved confidence. Put that on a Shield K9 shirt and take my money. I think we have another idiot here. You are going to be removed. It's weird to me. People do this. They waste the time to go on a live and then just say a whole bunch of unproductive things. Desperate plea for attention, perhaps. Have I ever done a video on teaching the send away? No, it's on my list of things to make a course for. It's actually quite an easy thing to do. Um, Affectionate Boat Lake says, I have read there's an Australian cattle dog that has an IGP-3. Not sure if it could be true. It could certainly be true. It's not impossible to obtain an IGP-3. It's not it's not a impossible title to obtain. So, there certainly could be any number of off breeds that have one. Um, Tell me a good Dutch Shepherd kennel, whether US or EU. Peggy police dogs. Bilal Baghdadi says, I heard in one of your videos that you were hospitalized once because you were bitten by a dog. Could you tell us what happened? I already been over it a couple times. So I'm not going to do that simply because there's really like no point to go over it again. Uh, yeah, it was a fun story though. Hello from Bahamas. I'm an old school trainer, but I love your techniques. I can count the trainers I subscribe to on one hand, and you're a great man. Even tell my clients to subscribe. Well, thank you, sir. And I'm wishing you all the best. CL says, thanks for the input. We worked the entire weekend before trial with trial helper and day before. But yeah, we have found the dog needs to be heavily frustrated to always stick a grip. We will get back to it. Side note, the OB was superpower and VG and V every exercise. Yeah, I'm sorry, Sometimes you have this with the dog, right? Where the dog is like super in like couple phases, like tracking and obedience, but then, protection, it's always like a 50-50 if the dog's going to hang in there and finish the protection routine or something like this, right? It's a tough one, and it's kind of like I can't really give you any advice because I haven't seen the dog, so maybe there's some things you can do to make the dog more resilient and hope that the dog stays on. A lot of the time it is a motivation thing. Akasha says, thank you for all the wisdom you share. You've saved so many of us from the cookie pushers. Well, that's good. Um, Savage or Average says, glad I caught alive. 10-month-old German Shepherd making great progress based on your content. Any tips on keeping your dog from injuring itself going after the ball? Yeah, I mean, if it's a legitimate concern and the dog really has that level of drive and recklessness, which to be honest, most of them don't, don't ever throw on wet grass. Make sure like if the dog's super reckless, like I might not even throw the ball. I might find something else to do. But typically, if you, I find most people that are worried really don't have a reason to worry. Like dogs are very resilient, they're very fast, they're very agile, and a dog just being a normal dog, there's nothing wrong with that. Uh, Luke says, Pit Nutter, Pit Mummy, mental illness. You did earn some stalker after the previous live stream. Yes. Well, there's always people that want to be in denial about the bull breeds and where they come from and all of that stuff. And they want to argue semantics and talk about chihuahuas and all the other usual obstruction and nonsense. But as you guys know, I'm Mr. Straightforward and I refuse to sugarcoat anything. Yeah, whether it's bull breeds attacking children and other dogs and their history and why they might, be more prone to do that. And especially when they do that, why their victims are much more likely to end up in the hospital. And why you as an owner should be very cognizant of that and take the appropriate steps to mitigate that risk, Of course, some people don't want to acknowledge that and they want to make up silly nonsense, and that's their prerogative, It's just the human race in a nutshell. Um, what do you do if the e-collar and choking the dog out won't get him to drop? What are you talking about? Like with the out? Yeah, I don't I don't think I always laugh when people say things like that. I'll be like, well, I did this thing that you said in the course and the dog didn't listen. And every time, every single time, okay, you guys have to understand. I have had the privilege of dealing with the broad spectrum of all that is dog, right? When we speak about drive, right? Extreme drive to no drive, right? When we speak about aggression, extreme aggression to no aggression. When you have that experience with the broad spectrum of all that is dog, whether we're talking about drive, behavioral issues, so on and so forth, when people say I did this and it didn't work because my dog, the implication is it's just my dog is so special. My dog is so, extra. You've never seen this before. Every single time I've heard it and I've actually seen the dog in person, it is an average dog at best. It is average at best. You are just not you are just not following the instructions properly, and you have skipped steps, or you're just not applying, the final step with the necessary level of intensity, so on and so forth. So obviously, I can't see what you're doing, and again, this is a live, so I'm not going to talk about all the things that I might do for an out or to fix an out or what you might be doing wrong. But suffice to say that if you follow the steps in my course, there is not one single dog on this planet Earth that will not out for you. I promise you. All right. My Dane isn't scared of anything in the environment. She's really confident in that field. So then it makes me wonder if it's me. I've also never been able to build her play drive. Any advice for that? I feel like it's more being worried to make a mistake if she leaves my side kind of thing. I'm not sure. Well, it depends what you've done. I don't know what you've done, right? So if the dog is extremely sensitive and you have corrected the dog for leaving you, it could simply be that, right? In which case, maybe you need to back off and give the dog more space, and give that dog that space to make mistakes. Remember what I said about giving that dog a little more freedom to do certain things that are conducive to the dog being more confident, right? So if I have a dog that lacks confidence and all of a sudden now that dog's a little bit more curious about the world, so the dog pulls into the leash a little more and wants to smell, and oh, like let me pull in and go smell over here, or go see, let me walk a little bit more forward in the walk and pull on the leash. I'm not going to give the dog shit for that. Why would I? This is the dog showing me exactly what I want the dog to do, right? So I'm not going to put pressure on the dog for something like that. Um, Lalo says, do you think you can train a dog to do protection work if he doesn't have a lot of prey drive for a sleeve? Of course. But has a ton of real prey drive for live animals? No, real prey drive for live animals doesn't really mean anything. Most every dog has that. Um, but in terms of prey drive, like having a lot of prey drive, it's not necessary for protection work. Actually, I bring out a lot of dogs in defense. Complete Canine says, if you have had to summarize your experience with Mace into advice for fellow trainers, what would that advice be? Well, I gave that advice all through the videos in which I was working with Mace, right? I slowly built a relationship with the dog. I was heavily cognizant of his body language. All the pressure that I applied to him was, carefully applied, and I taught him what all that pressure meant. And then when I finally did apply a high level of pressure to him, I did so in such a way that I was safe and he was safe, so that the pressure was meaningful and effective. If I had just pulled the dog out of the kennel first day and started cranking on him like a lot of the idiots wanted me to do, I would have been chewed up and probably pretty badly, and nothing good would have happened from that exchange, right? So, you know, take your time, follow a system that creates, a situation where you're progressing every time, right? You're mixing motivation, obligation, right, in the appropriate mix for that specific dog, and you're building a relationship. What is a relationship? A relationship isn't just something where, oh, like you love me, right? Like you love me because like I give you nice things. That's not a relationship. That maybe is a certain level of dependency, but it's not a relationship, right? That's bribery fundamentally. Oh, I'll just give him stuff until he likes me and then we'll have a relationship, right? No, a true relationship, a meaningful relationship has love, but it also has respect, right? And with dogs, respect is something that you do not just earn by giving the dog cookies. Respect is something that you earn by showing the dog that you control outcomes, right? And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. By the way, it's the same with humans, whether we like it or not. When you control outcomes and you are consistent, right, about how you manage those outcomes, that is what brings respect. When you are inconsistent, you create fear or hatred, right? When you are inconsistent, you can create just, what's the word? When people don't care, right? Like they don't care about you, or they're afraid of you, or they hate you. It's the same with the animals, right? Because you're inconsistent. You're impossible to predict. We can't have a relationship. You understand what I'm saying? Or you only give things, right? Okay, well, you're a source of food. You're basically bribing me, right? We all know what those relationships are like, right? So, true relationship, you really want to form a true relationship with a dog. You have love and you also have respect. And respect comes from consistency and the control of outcomes, both good and bad. Hi, Has. Just wanted to say hi from Texas. We thoroughly enjoy your content. Awesome, man. Happy to hear it. Let's see here. Last one, then I'll be here to listen. Our club has a Rottweiler from Showlines that is very intense. About a month ago, the dog was channeling between drives very well. Was given tricep PSA dog. Okay, cool, man. Awesome. Just wanted to say hi. Thank you for sharing. This is from Anthony about your experiences with your training on the dogs. I've been learning a lot watching your videos. Your German Shepherd has a wow factor, a sharp dog. Well, thank you very much. Um, my dog is choking on her kibble in training. Soak the kibble in water. That's from Edo. CL says, couldn't get his feet under him. Sleeve was slipped, and when the dog came to turn on the handler and gave, when the dog came to, he turned on the handler and was given and gave a significant bite on the bicep. After handler aggression, what is your general course of action? Okay, let me see if I can understand. You put this into two pieces. So our club has a Rottweiler from Showlines that is very intense. About a month ago, the dog was channeling between drives very well. He was given tricep, couldn't get his feet under him, so sleeve was slipped. And when the dog came to, he turned on the handler and gave a significant. You mean like when the dog came to implies that he was unconscious? Couldn't get his feet under him, so he was slipped. So you mean you slipped the sleeve, and then he went back to the handler and bit the handler? I don't think I really understand what happened. How would you differentiate a dog? So this is from somebody else, Smokestack. How would you differentiate a dog that's good for civil protection training versus a dog that's good for sport work? Well, those two things necessarily oppose from one another. So, for instance, my dog Chico and my dog Gage could both do civil protection work and have done certain, within the boundaries that I allow them, have done that type of work with muzzle training and hidden sleeves and so on and so forth. So those two things are not diametrically opposed to one another. It's like kind of saying, how would you determine someone who, is a boxer, and then someone who could learn how to be a boxer, and someone who could learn how to fight on the street? Most people would be like, well, I think those two people could probably be the same thing. That being said, there are certainly some dogs, and I'm sure the same with humans. People that are very comfortable maybe to box or to fight in like the setting of a ring with the rules, but maybe would be a lot less comfortable in a street setting, so on and so forth. And it's certainly the same for the dogs. There are certain dogs where it's like, as long as protection is presented as a game, they're willing to do it. But the second that protection is no longer a game, they are no longer interested in doing it, right? And that would be my simple answer to your question would be any dog that's like that, you know. That's from Luna the Dane. Could it possibly be the heat? She sniffs a lot more and will take treats and be perfectly fine in indoor places. I mean, I don't know. Very unlikely that it's the heat. If you're telling me that when you are away from your dog acts completely different than when you're close to the dog, I'd be looking to figure out why that is. That would be what I would be looking into. Savage or average? How would you handle a dog that chewed baseboards while he had someone watching him while we were on vacation? He's been perfect out of his crate for months, and I don't want to crate him all the time. Well, perhaps because of your prolonged absence, his level of anxiety spiked. He was with a strange person, and I would say that that would probably be a good time to crate him. Is when you're not around, because now, of course, the dog's anxiety is going to go up, and more likely he's going to do stuff like that. Smokestack says basically what I'm asking is like when police dogs fail to bite someone on the job, what would you say the reason for why that is sometimes? Well, sometimes it's a quality issue, and sometimes it's a training issue, and sometimes it's a combination of both, right? So, a quality issue would be that the dog just lacks the nerve to do the work. The dog doesn't have the level of heart and bravery necessary to actually engage and bite a man. Training, most police dogs are very poorly trained. They don't have the level of training that is necessary for them to be successful in many cases, because police departments still insist on training their own dogs because for some reason they think that they're dog trainers even though they're police officers, and it's a completely separate profession. But for whatever reason, a lot of them like to think that they can train dogs, and in many cases the answer is no, that they can't. And unfortunately they don't have the ability to, properly train the dogs to do good deployments, and in many cases you'll see that. So yeah, I mean, in many cases it's training, and in other cases it's quality. The dog is a of low quality and has no business being in a patrol function. Maybe it could be a good search dog, but not a good patrol dog. And that could be a reason as well. So there's a lot of different factors at play. Some dogs actually need experience. So you'll hear a lot about some dogs where it's like, you know, and I know of a few of them where it's like the first couple of deployments, like either the dog didn't bite or the dog barely bit, it was very unconvincing. But the dog had a few positive experiences, and then by like the third or fourth deployment, the dog's smoking people, right? So, yeah. CL says, yes, exactly. He turned on his handler from the decoy after the decoy slipped the sleeve because he seemed like he was about to pass out. So decoy slipped, but he was not completely out. I don't understand why he would be passing out. Um, I don't understand why he would be passing out from just like doing bite work. If the dog is, oh, if this is a show line dog and he has a flat face, speaking about the Rottweiler, it could be that the lack of oxygen to the brain because they're not properly structured, right? They don't have a functional structure. It could be that actually he was overheating, lack of oxygen to the brain, almost passed out from all the exertion, and then obviously he's not in a cognitively coherent state, and maybe he came to and the first thing he saw was the handler and went back to, oh yeah, we're doing bite work, and wham, hammered the handler. You don't know, right? That would be my guess based on what you're telling me. Do I have contact of herding German Shepherd? Just farm? No, I don't. No. What do I think about giving supplements to dogs like creatine? I don't know about creatine because I don't think that would be necessary for a dog. Things like steroids, I think could certainly assist, right? Like when you think about what we do with racehorses, right? Um, you know, uh, they've given steroids to racehorses. They certainly have a positive impact in the short term, anyways. So things like steroids, could they assist with like optimal performance as well as recovery? I would assume they probably would. Things like peptides, BPC 157 with TB 500. I think those definitely could have a positive impact on healing injury. Um, you know, I'm sure there's others I'm not thinking of that could certainly have a positive impact. Smokestack says, so do you need to have a dog with high prey drive in order to do personal protection training, or does that not really matter? No, it doesn't really matter. You just need to have a dog that has obviously the correct breed, should have a certain, like a high level of confidence, shouldn't be a nerve bag. And if the drive is mediocre, that's not a problem at all. You don't need high prey drive for a personal protection dog at all. Um, Tack Rack Bang says a game bred American Pit Bull female would do fine with a Dutch Shepherd in the same house. You're posing this as a question. I exercise my dogs daily, blah, 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 blah. I mean, maybe. It's quite possible. I don't know. I mean, you certainly hear about game bred dogs of all sexes turning on their housemate and killing them, especially in the throes of rough play. So, your dog is game bred. Game bred dogs can do. So if you want to take the risk, go for it, right? You know your dog, right? Um, Someone said, if a dog is afraid of people, do you think a dog can be translated into that fear can be translated into aggression against people? Well, yes, of course. That's the vast majority of cases where dogs are aggressive towards people. I have a small dog, a little Maltese. She's already around 10 years. She has terrible separation anxiety. Gone to work. She whines and cries all day. Is there anything I can do? Yeah, I have a free video on YouTube, how to handle separation anxiety. Watch it. How do I convert a dog with low drive to a protection dog? Well, there's some free videos on YouTube, and then I have a whole protection course online where I go over how to work dogs through prey, or sorry, how to work dogs through defense. And I have a course called the DIY protection course at shieldcanineonline.com. All my courses are at shieldcanineonline.com. And all the training that I speak about, you can find a course for it, whether it's a reactive rehab course, my elite off leash obedience course, puppy course, DIY protection, all of that stuff. Smokestack says, do you think they are softening personal protection training as the years go on? Not really. Not really. I think there's, I don't think they really are. I think it's pretty much the same as it's always been. All right, folks. I am going to wrap this one up. I'll see you on the next one. Can I get a discount on the DIY protection course? Yeah, you know what? If you're watching this live and you want a discount code on one of my courses, I will provide you guys a 24-hour discount code. Email info@shieldk9.ca and I'll give you guys a 24-hour discount code on any of my courses. Okay? All right. With that, it's time to check out. I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a fantastic weekend, folks.